Hare Krishna. The point is not to get it right, but to get it across. Scripture is not just a book to be learned, but a book to be lived. And this central purpose of scripture is something that any translator has to keep in mind always. Now, the point is not to get it right, but to get it across. Refers to how translators need to approach the task of translating scripture. Now, getting it right means ensuring that means focusing on getting the literal linguistic meaning of scripture conveyed accurately in the translated language from the original text. Now, getting it across means conveying the essential point of scripture intelligibly and appealingly, so that the translation speaks to the contemporary audience with the same relevance as the original text spoke to its original audience. So relevance is a very important characteristic of scripture, because scripture is a living text. And that's why those who are expert translators, they don't just focus on getting it right. They know the main point in getting it right is to get it across. Now, an excellent example of such a living translation is Srila Prabhupada's rendition of Bhagavad-gita 15.6. Na tadbhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So, na tadbhasayate suryo, that abode is not illumined by the sun. Na shashanko na pavakaha, na shashanko, not by the moon. Na pavakaha, not by fire. Yadgatva na nivartante, having attained that abode, na nivartante, one does not return here. Tadhama paramam mama, that is my supreme abode. So now, in this verse, when Krishna speaks of the spiritual world, mama paramam mama, my abode, Krishna, his own abode, which is the spiritual world, he says that this spiritual world is not illumined by sun, moon or fire. Now, Prabhupada in his translation adds electricity to the list. Now, how can this addition be justified? If by examining the essential meaning of the verse. That essential meaning is that the spiritual world is self-luminous, that it doesn't depend on any source of illumination such as the sunlight or sun, moon or fire. Now, this self-luminosity is a mystical, appealing, captivating feature of the spiritual world. We don't see anything like this in the material world, and that is one of the features that makes spiritual world so attractive. Now, this contrast between the spiritual world's self-luminosity and the material world's darkness, inherent darkness, is also made explicit in the Bhagavad-gita later, when in 15.12 it is Krishna lists the same three sources, and he states that he manifests as these three sources for illuminating this dark world. Yadadittigatam tejo jagadbhasite akhilam yachandramasi yachagnu tat tejo viddimamakam. He says the tejo of these three, yadadittigatam tejo, the effulgence of the sun, jagadbhasite akhilam, which illumines the whole world, yachandramasi yachagnu, of the moon and of fire, Tat tejo viddhimamakam, that teja comes from me. So now, here, this contrast, Prabhupada has to convey to his audience. Now, he wrote his translations to primarily a modern urban audience whose whose most familiar source of illumination was electricity. So therefore, to convey to them the point that the spiritual world does not depend on any source of illumination, that it is self-illness, Prabhupada's usage or addition of electricity to the list is not just appropriate, but it is astute. That's how the translation comes alive to them. It becomes relevant. The appeal of the spiritual world gets conveyed to them by this addition, insertion. So now, this insertion does not interfere with the essential meaning of the scripture. Rather, it conveys that meaning in a pertinent, germane way to the audience. So now, though a translation that is linguistically precise, but not practically, but not experientially relevant to the audience, is a dead translation. Those who live scripture can't tolerate offering such dead translations, such lifeless translations. So they strive to convey the scripture as they live it and as their audience can live it. Such are the expert translations that keep the Gita alive and that bring its readers spiritually alive. Thank you. Hare.